Deputy Sheriff, working 10 hours a day to protect and serve. Last year in Oregon, there were 13,000 citations and arrests for marijuana. Yes on 91 will allow law enforcement to focus on serious crimes, unsolved murders, rapes, missing kids. Measure 91 also mandates that Oregon develop standardized tests for driving under the influence, which we don't have now. That'll make our streets and highways safer. Yes on 91.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Yes, not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, Tokers and Tokettes. 4:02 in the Pacific Time Zone. We're 8 days away from legal marijuana in my state of Oregon. God, I'm looking forward to it. Next Monday, the night before the election, I will be on a show called Fight Church. I don't know much more about it than that, but I will tell you about it once I know more. I'll look it up tonight and tell you about it tomorrow. But yeah, I'm appearing on Fight Church here in Portland. It's a Portland thing. So we'll be promoting Measure 91 for anybody who wants to know about it, and I will give you more details as I find them out, like I mentioned. All right, wanted to share with you some of my thought processes. I got the chance to make that fine video. The videos from this most recent debate that we're on, that was on. It was just amazing. I got to watch the whole thing again with my wife. We ran through it and watched it again. And I pick up little nuances. And it was really fun to watch it in high def as well, because I was able to pick out pictures of some people that were, little crowd shots, right? That had the most incredulous looks on their face as they were listening to Josh Marquis, the kind of the what the fuck look. and what's interesting to me is he was delivering this in a room that had people in it who've been busted for weed in Oregon. 2 or 3 of the guys that I know that were, they're fans of the show, growers, guys that have run dispensaries, are in the audience. And he has the gall to tell them that this is the way, the cops will just knock on your door and tell you to call your grandma if you're cutting up a block of hash and the room smells like Bob Marley's ass. Yeah, they'll just tell you to call your grandma. Those 10,000 citations and 3,000 arrests, that's not really happening. Everything's just like some writer wrote in 1980. But don't pay attention to Inga Frickland's experience from the 1980s. Because that's not valid. That was a long time ago. There was more I could have added to that video. There's numerous remarks where Inga Frickland, who's, by the way, kicking ass with law enforcement against prohibition here in Oregon, where she made references to how we got into this situation. And, it has a lot to do with the racism and the politics of Richard Nixon. And that's a valid point about this, war on drugs. the whole federal court case that's going down right now, taking testimony right now on the Schedule 1 nature, the Schedule 1 designation of marijuana, is going down because Nixon had it put in Schedule 1 against the recommendations of all the scientists who said there's no reason that should be in Schedule 1 whatsoever. So, I mean, this is something that's only being addressed in the courts some 40 years later. So it is somewhat relevant. But one thing I really enjoyed about putting this together is getting the information for this slide. I'm going to be using this quite a bit from now on. For any time I hear a prohibitionist like Josh Markey say, well, you know, this is for decrim states. Well, you know, it's just a ticket. It's just a ticket. Now, we had fixed this ticket. You got to understand, the ticket now is a presumptive $650 fine. Just in 2013, we passed a law that made it so your driver's license didn't get suspended for 6 months for that ticket. So most of the people who've been ticketed for marijuana in Oregon lost their damn driver's license for half a year. Even if they weren't driving, even if they were caught with weed and it wasn't anywhere near their car, they'd lose their license for 6 months. And for most working class people, that's a real hardship. That really messes up their lives. But that doesn't exist anymore. This was also the law that got passed that that finally created a marijuana misdemeanor in this state. Boy, if this law hadn't gotten passed, you know how much harder we could have been hammering Josh Markey? Well, for 27 grams, we don't ruin anyone's life. Yeah, but you know what it used to be? For 28 grams, or actually technically over an ounce, so 28.3475 grams, it was a felony. Oregon used to be the only state that went from a ticket up to an ounce to a felony over an ounce. We just changed that last year. So again, when Josh Markey says, yeah, we didn't ruin any lives for under 27 grams or under, but yeah, for 28 grams, we really fucked up some people's lives. And again, that recently changed, but from 2012 and before, all the way back to 1973, 39 years is that? People were getting felonies for over an ounce, for just over an ounce. We'll talk a little bit more about this when we come back from break, because I want to talk more about speeding versus marijuana. We'll be right back.
Elitist. Just like any other dishwashing, burger flipping, public school educated, self-employed, bar band, musician, National Guardsman, he's Radical Russ.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the Ustream video app for Android and iPhone. Go to rad-r.us/420Ustream or just click the Ustream app icon for Android or iPhone below the live radio feed at 420.
Voting yes on 2 will allow doctors to recommend the medicine they feel will ease the pain and suffering of thousands of sick Floridians. Yes on 2 allows medical marijuana use under the strict supervision of a doctor, only for debilitating conditions and diseases such as cancer and MS. 23 states now keep government and politicians out of the doctor-patient relationship, and it's worked. Vote yes on 2 and trust our doctors to do what's best.
Cannabis Cure TV with Greg DeHote from Sussex, England. Replaying Thursdays at 12 Pacific on.
I don't care for marijuana, but I do care about my family and their future. The system's not working now, so I think I'm voting yes on 91. Now, one small mistake getting caught with a little marijuana can ruin a life. A record, can't get loans, jobs, or credit, that's wrong. Measure 91 will regulate marijuana and generate tax revenue dedicated to police and schools, and let police protect us from serious crimes. Yes on 91 is a better approach.
Great music there from Benny Goodman, clarinet a la King from 1941. It's part of our reefer jazz music that we play on the new Viper Hour every 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock on Mondays here on 420radio.org. Another episode coming up right after this one. So we were talking about this this graph, this chart that I've put together. And I'm calling it the difference between a speeding ticket and a marijuana ticket. Because that's something that our opponents here, Josh Markey and others, have tried to minimize. And it's always an interesting tightrope walk for the prohibitionists, isn't it? They have to minimize the damage of the drug war because the drug war is enormously unpopular. Nobody likes the idea of locking people up for marijuana. They think it's, that's just going too far. So they got to minimize the damage of the drug war. It's no big deal in Oregon. Why, the cops will just show up to your house and tell you to call your grandma. It's only a ticket. It's just like a speeding ticket. It's uncomfortable. It's unpleasant. But you didn't get a free ride in a cop car. It's not on your criminal record. It's just a ticket. It's no big deal. So at some point, I imagine a lot of people's minds must eventually go, well, if it's no big deal, why are we keeping it illegal in the first place? See, this idea that, well, it's no big deal, it's like a speeding ticket. We understand why there are speeding tickets, right? You got to have some sort of stick. You got to have something to punish people to make them not want to speed. Now, even though there is this speeding ticket, we know people speed, right? I speed. You speed. We all speed. Probably almost all of us speed. I know one person who does not speed. Left-wing Larry does not speed. Okay? But if you look at the graph up there on the video screen, you can see that in Oregon, it's a Class D infraction if you speed between 1 and 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. Class D infraction, the lowest level infraction you can get, and the presumptive fine is $110. The max you can get is $250. Now, I could go out right now to Interstate 205 over here and find you hundreds of people committing Class D infractions. Everybody's driving more than 65 on that freeway, or some of it's 55, I think, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? Almost everyone drives 5 miles an hour over the limit. And for my listener in Miami, I know you're laughing. 5, Jesus. People driving 20 over the limit out here. Yes, I know. But you get my point, right? People are committing that Class D violation all the time. People 1 to 5 to 7 miles an hour over the speed limit. And every now and then, cops will pull one of them over. Usually close to the end of the month when they need to make a quota. And close to the end of the shift so they can get some overtime. But just enough people get that Class D infraction that few people want to speed over 10 miles an hour over the limit. Few people do it. It's low enough that the general flow of traffic will go about 5 miles an hour over the limit, but not much more than that. Also, because there is a certain, between 1 and 4 miles an hour over the limit, you can argue in court a little bit about, my speedometer wasn't perfectly accurate. I got new tires. They're a little bit wider, whatever. So there's this general, we can violate this law up to about halfway. But we understand why we have the speeding ticket, right? We understand we have the speeding ticket because speeding is dangerous. Speeding can kill people. Speeding can mess up traffic. So that speeding ticket gets increasingly more as the levels go up, right? 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, it's $160. 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, $260. And if you're going more than 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, we're talking 96, 97, 99 miles an hour on the freeway. You're going to get a $435 ticket because, by God, doing 99 on the freeway is not acceptable. That's a Class A infraction, baby. That's the worst infraction we can give you. $435. But a marijuana citation is $650? This ticket, that's supposedly like a speeding ticket, is going to cost me almost 6 times more than the generally accepted everybody does it ticket. and is going to cost me 50% more than a guy driving 99 miles an hour on the freeway. We understand why we don't want the guy driving 99 on the freeway. He's going to wreck and die and kill himself and others. But the 28 marijuana grams, right? The 27 grams, what are we trying to fix there? What are we trying to do? Now, like the speeding ticket, maybe it's to dissuade people. Maybe we know people are going to be having a lot of, going to smoke marijuana and there's not much we can do about it. Just like people are going to go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. It's just going to happen. But if we just get just enough of them and just catch enough people with that $650 ticket, that'll keep the rates low. That'll keep the rates low. That'll be enough dissuasion for enough of them to not want to carry a whole bunch of weed everywhere they go. Is that the argument? Because if we're going to go with the speeding ticket analogy, that's why we have speeding tickets. To try to prevent dangerous things from happening and have enough dissuasive power to make it not the norm. But again, we haven't yet proven what the dangerous thing is if a person has less than an ounce of weed on them. What danger it is to society. I know the guy going 99 miles an hour on the freeway could wreck into me. That's the danger. The guy who's got the less than an ounce on him, how does that affect me now? Aside from him bogarting and not sharing? How does that affect me? How is that going to kill me or my kids? Well, you might smoke weed and get behind the wheel of a car. Well, yeah, but that's already illegal. That's a separate whole thing, man. That's a felony you can get for that. What's just the possession part? What is it that we're trying to dissuade? What danger are we trying to mitigate by trying to punish and fine people? So this is where their argument loses. It's because they can't have it both ways. You can't have it, well, it's no big deal. It's just no big deal. It's just a ticket in Oregon. Unless you can justify what harm or what public policy good the ticket does, aside from making money. And aside from keeping marijuana contraband, so that you can still do drug dog sniffs, you can still do searches, you can still get around the Fourth Amendment. Aside from keeping marijuana contraband, so you can still say it's bad, it's evil, it's wrong, okay, and force people into a rehab and force them to give them your piss to ensure that they don't do the marijuana that's so bad that they would get just a ticket if they were possessing it, and threaten them with jail if they fail the P test. The whole thing's a house of cards, and they know it's coming down. They can feel it coming down. They're grasping now. They're just grasping at straws, just hoping one of their scares will stick. And of course, the other side of the whole it's just a ticket thing ignores the fact that just a ticket is the best outcome you get if you're possessing less than an ounce. That's the best it turns out. Because you're possessing less than that ounce in your car, maybe then they suspect you of DUI. If you're possessing that less than an ounce in your car, that's when they call the drug dog in. Because if you've got less than an ounce on you, well, maybe you've got a pound in the trunk. And that's when they pull you out of the car and they sit you over 50 yards off the side of the road. And they open the trunk and they take out your bags and everything and have the drug dogs go through them. And they take things out, your own personal stuff out. And because, marijuana can be put into anything these days. So they start taking out your food and your lotions and your balms and starts running those through field tests in front of the camera to make sure they got it for evidence. What they don't understand about this just a marijuana ticket is that's just you. If you have the ounce on you, you got an ounce on you and happen to have it in 2 separate baggies, that's no longer just possession. That's possession with intent to distribute. And that's an arrestable crime. That's when we can throw the cuffs on you. If you were possessing that less than an ounce and you were sharing it with your friend for no remuneration, no money, no benefits whatsoever, not selling, not trading, just giving a guy a joint, that's less than 5 grams distribution. That's another $650 ticket. So now you're up to $1,300 for your tickets, presumptive. If you gave your friend a 1/4 ounce, you got less than an ounce and you decide to give him a 1/4, that's arrestable. That's distribution of over 5 grams. That's an arrestable crime. You can be frisked. You can have your car searched. You can have your assets seized over this stuff. You don't have to have criminal charge to do civil asset forfeiture. Pot ticket will do just fine. And don't even get me started on owning a gun or being a parent getting firearm and child endangerment charges if you have that marijuana, as a matter of fact.
From now on, you will speak only when spoken to.
Yes, Drill Sergeant. Hey, folks, it's 4:20 here in the Pacific Time Zone. We are 8 days away from legalizing marijuana, and it's getting really exciting. Coming up next, Roots Monday with Bacon Dan calling in. He's got us some Dr. John. Perfect Halloween song, if you ask me. Stick around.
420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana.
The doctor has the right to prescribe OxyContin or any type of prescription like that. They should have the right to recommend medical cannabis for that same patient.
In the 1980s, my mother asked me to help a friend of hers who was terribly nauseous and vomiting every single day from her treatment, and my mother begged me, since I was a young adult, could I find marijuana for this woman? And it's a crime that even all these many years later, we still have to illegally get this treatment that really makes a difference for people.
The real concept is Amendment 2 would allow for medical decisions to be made by doctors instead of politicians.
We're asking you to please vote yes on Amendment 2 November 4th because there are patients that need medication in this state and they deserve it.
I am.
And I am. And I am.
We're United for Care.
I'm Pete Tupmark. I spent 33 years in law enforcement, from deputy sheriff to sergeant, working 10 hours a day protecting Oregonians. Last year in Oregon, there were 13,000 citations and arrests for marijuana. That takes time. Time better spent solving murders, rape cases, finding missing children. The system is broken. Measure 91 regulates marijuana for adults, so police have time to fight serious, violent, and unsolved crimes. It's about time.
Despite strong public support for medical cannabis, decriminalization, and legalization in Georgia, the state spends $121 million every year to arrest, prosecute, and imprison Georgians for simple possession. Each year, the state of Georgia spends less on driver services, agriculture, and forestry combined. What else can $121 million a year do in Georgia? With that much money, the state could hire and keep 3,000 more teachers, improve roads and bridges, provide tax relief for small businesses, repair aging sewage systems, or lower taxes. But right now, that's millions of dollars of your tax money wasted on failed enforcement. Tell your representative you're tired of wasteful spending and ask them to end cannabis prohibition. Join the conversation at www.peachtreenormal.org. Peachtree Normal is a proud affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
At the age of 10, I was diagnosed with bone tumors growing outwardly on most long bones of the body. I could tear a vein, clot could break off, go to your heart, your brain, your lungs, and you're dead. Medical cannabis has saved my life. I was fortunate enough to become a federal patient, and I've not had a tumor new and develop since I was 21 years old, and I'm now 61 years old. What we need to be able to do is get other people off disability that aren't able to hold down a job because they're on different medications that give marginal results. On November 4th, Florida voters will have an opportunity to do the right thing, so please vote yes on Amendment 2.
How desperate is the No on 91 campaign to scare you about marijuana?
A couple of things that he talks about is the advocates of this Measure 91 want you to believe that marijuana has medicinal value, which couldn't be anything further from the truth.
The truth is regulation is a better approach than prohibition. Vote yes on 91. This advertisement produced by the Russ Belville Show and is not sponsored or endorsed by the Yes on Measure 91 campaign.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Roots Monday, featuring the blues, country, folk, and jazz music that birthed the modern sounds we enjoy today. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. 25 after the hour, and unfortunately no Bacon Dan on the line for us today. I'm sure he's probably busy at his new job at the Apple Store downtown Portland. I was driving around downtown Portland the other day, actually riding around. I was on the bus. I was riding around on the bus, and I saw the Apple Store and the big, huge line of people out there waiting to get the new iPhone 6. So probably pretty busy. But that doesn't matter because we've got the tune that we need, and I'm sure we'll see Bacon Dan shortly, so we'll get him again on the show. Going to have a lot of fun, and let's see, we've got Dr. John, Season of the Witch, and it is Halloween season, so it seems like the perfect tune for us. Let's just get to it.
420 Radio, the activist radio station. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com and follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter.
Professionals Against Prohibition, replaying Thursdays at 10 Pacific on 420radio.org.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 32 after the hour. Radical Russ back here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful Potland, Oregon. Cooking in the second half hour here of Toker Talk Radio. And I want to go back to a story that we covered in hour one. And it's this testimony, this sworn affidavit, this information that's come across the desk here about California Highway Patrol officers regularly stealing the cell phones of young women they had arrested. Stealing the nude photos out of those cell phones and passing them around fellow officers like a game. A game that's been going on apparently for years, apparently among many law enforcement agencies. Just getting the naked photos of the young women that they arrest. Now, this makes you wonder, of course, whether or not the arrest was even valid, right? If guys like this are playing some sort of game where they're passing around nude photos of attractive women, maybe these women are getting busted for driving while blonde. Maybe that's it, right? They're driving while busty. DWB is taking a whole new meaning in California. Used to be the stereotype was the hot young blonde getting out of the ticket by flashing a little cleavage. Now it looks like she may be getting into an arrest so they can steal the pics off her phone. Well, we told this story in hour one, and I now have an update. Justin King writes this up. No charges for the cops that stole intimate cell phone photos. No charges. A busted California Highway Patrol officer described the game of taking intimate photos from the cell phones of young women and distributing them to other officers in a sworn confession. He implicated other officers in the same type of crime. The affidavit stated the practice is widespread among law enforcement and that it has been occurring for several years. Officers have been taking the cell phones of attractive women that were arrested and copying the private photos of the women without legal justification. There are even reported incidents of cops stealing photos from women who were in the hospital after car accidents. The photos were then shared with other officers and whoever else the cops decided to share them with. Given the ongoing nature of the game, it's not a stretch to imagine the charges filed against the women were bogus to begin with. Indeed, even every arrest of a young female by an officer that would engage in such a game is now in question. Interestingly enough, despite a sworn affidavit from a law enforcement officer disclosing the practice, no arrests have been made. A verbal statement by an officer is enough to cause the arrest of anybody who isn't a cop themselves, but a sworn affidavit and digital evidence apparently isn't enough to arrest the accused California Highway Patrol officers. A decision about charging the officers is expected next week. The delay is a denial of justice. In any other situation, a jury and not other members of the Thin Blue Line would decide guilt or innocence. The identified victims in the crimes ranged from age 19 to 23. Yeah, so these are the cops protecting and serving. And remember, it's only recently that the Supreme Court ruled that you had to get a warrant to be able to search an arrestee's cell phone in the first place. So let's hope that that decision from the Supreme Court makes a difference. But this is pretty pretty disgusting to think about. To think about how justice gets perverted, literally, by these guys. And every case that we get in this society, and even on a broader scale, let's take this broader than just the war on drugs. Cases where we, the people, see blatant disregard and open defiance of the law, and then only see it get the merest slap on the wrist. In the drug war, of course, I'd immediately point to HSBC, the huge bank, HSBC, that openly admitted, oh yeah, we laundered billions in drug money for Mexican drug cartels. Yeah, we actually had our tellers' windows custom modified to fit the type of duffel bags that the Mexican cartels would use to ship their cash. That's the truth, folks. That's literal. I'm not making shit up there. They literally changed, retrofitted their teller windows so they could accept the huge duffel bags of cash that the cartels were laundering through HSBC. So, how much jail time did those bankers get? If you guess 0, you win. No jail time. They did get a fine. They got a $1.6 billion fine, was it? It was $1 billion. It was over $1 billion. It was a big fine for you or me. But to HSBC, $1 billion, that's pocket change to them. That's just cost of doing business. That's return on investment, folks. That's to take the cost benefit analysis is what I meant. This is just cost benefit analysis to them. Well, if we launder this drug money for the Mexican cartels, we'll make X billion dollars. And if they catch us, they'll make us pay Y billion dollars. X is greater than Y by magnitudes, so let's do X. And to a certain point, they were right to do so. Corporations in this country are bound by law to maximize quarterly profit for their investors. So, if you can do this thing that maximizes profit for your investors, and it will make more money than not doing the thing or doing something different, then you do it. I mean, it's the old parable of the snake, right? Well, you can't be upset that the snake bit you. He told you he was a snake, right? That's the way capitalism works. You put a profit motive in front of somebody, and their gig is to go get that profit so long as it doesn't blatantly break the law, put anyone in jail. And even in that case, sometimes they do it. So you get these HSBC banks that are laundering billions in drug money, and all we see is fines that don't mean anything. And the perpetrators of these kind of crimes keep their jobs, usually get bonuses, keep living the high life. You see this, I was just flipping through channels the other night. South Park was on. It was the one with the BP oil spill where BP changed their name to DP. We're DPing the earth. And the fake BP CEO, we're sorry. We're so sorry. Yeah, sorry don't do it. How about a perp walk? How about one of these big oil polluters being marched off to prison? How about HSBC bank executives being marched off to prison? How about lying Wall Street fat cats who knowingly bankrupted this country and put us on the brink of another Great Depression? How about some of those guys being perp walked into a prison? How about some of these cops that shoot unarmed black kids with their hands up get perp walked into a prison? And year after year and story after story, we see these horrendous miscarriages of justice happen. And we see a system that does not deal with it. A system that does not bring us justice. And that breeds a contempt and disrespect for law altogether, regardless of how you feel on the drug war. This puts you in a place that what's the point in doing good? What's the point in being right? You could be like that officer I told you about in hour one, who was a good cop, who reported other bad cops, damn near died for it. So when we're fighting this battle here, trying to legalize marijuana, please keep in mind that this is like one battle in a huge war for our culture, for our way of life, for the way we deal with each other as human beings. And I think the traditional labels of left, right, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican don't really matter in the bigger picture. It's really a matter of how is our destiny controlled? Is it controlled by free individuals, or is it controlled by a few corporations? And that seems to be the two directions. That seems to be the real dichotomy here. Are we going to be small, local, independent, sustainable people with rights and liberties? Or are we going to be the global country of a few, 10, 20 corporations that run everything? Already we've seen that we the people really means we the corporations, because corporations are people, my friend. The only difference is they are immortal, they are sociopaths, and they have infinitely more money than we do. The only thing we have left that corporations don't is the vote. Think about that for a second. It's the only thing the people have that the corporations don't. They got more money than us. They got more guns than us. They got more technology than us. The only thing we still retain they do not is the vote. Now, I understand the political speech thing. They got more money to buy ads. They got more money to bribe politicians. Give campaign donations. More money to fund elections and shadow PACs and all of this, dark money stuff that's going on. Yes, that's all true. They have all that. The only thing they can't actually do is vote. So when I hear people say, simultaneously, I hear this in Portland a lot because it's lefty liberal land, right? I hear a lot of, fucking corporations, the fucking corporations. And then they don't vote. Well, fuck it. It doesn't matter. I don't vote. I don't want to be a part of that Babylon. Really? You can't simultaneously hold those two positions, can you? To hate the corporate overlords and then willingly surrender to them the only thing you have as a citizen that they don't and that they need. Wow. That's a cognitive dissonance I can't even begin to understand unless I smoke a whole lot more weed. So I better get on it.
The beginning of the end started in 1996 when California legalized weed for so-called medical purposes. 16 years later, Washington and Colorado legalized it outright and let people sell it from storefronts. And what has been the result?
The generation of millions of dollars in tax revenue for the states and creation of hundreds of new jobs in a growing multi-billion-dollar industry?
No. Well, yes, but at what cost?
Let's see. The cost of all that police time and money that's now spent going after real criminals and prisons with enough room to hold them all?
No. Well, yes, but look at what it's done to the people.
You mean that fewer of them are dying of alcohol, tobacco, and prescription-related causes since they've switched to cannabis, and many more are receiving medical benefit from a cheap, non-toxic healing herb?
No. Well, yes to all of that, but I can smell pot from my backyard, and I can't tell my kids not to do it because it's illegal.
420 Radio, the home of marijuana experts.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420.
Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers thinks it's okay for medical marijuana patients like Larry Harvey to go to prison and lose their constitutional rights. Even though Washington has had a medical marijuana law protecting patients like Larry since 1998, on May 30th, Congresswoman McMorris Rogers voted against an amendment that would protect Washington patients.
I voted to send Kathy McMorris Rogers to Congress, and she voted to send me to prison.
Is the Congresswoman out of touch with Washington?
Mandy Puckett, head of the No on Measure 91 campaign, worries about marijuana advertising.
Again, the biggest concern that we as moms have is how this is going to affect kids with mass commercialization, advertising, promoting, normalizing marijuana use. That's what comes along with Measure 91.
Measure 91, Section 7 grants the OLCC the power, quote, to regulate and prohibit any advertising. Get the facts. Vote yes on Measure 91. This advertisement produced by the Russ Belville Show and is not sponsored or endorsed by the Yes on Measure 91.
All right, we're back. It's 47 after the hour. Toker Talk Radio, winding up the day. Coming up next, we got the new Viper Hour, episode 54. Some potpourri, good mixture of early 20th century blues, jazz, and swing music. Giving you a taste of what things were like at the beginning of the reefer jazz era and our cannabis culture, for that matter. I'm having a bit of a Monday today, though, I got to tell you. My mouth's not working right. It's a little difficult sometimes when you're doing radio. Sometimes your mind has these wonderful, amazing things to say, and your mouth doesn't work right. So I'm having one of those days. I like to try to give 110%. Today, I think I can only accomplish 102. So, my apologies. There is a story that I have not been following, and I'm just picking up on this, and I'm going to have to dig into it a little differently, a little deeper. It's a story that happened last August, apparently, just the end of last month. But it was a story about, it's just a weird story because you don't know where exactly to root for. I'm not sure who to root for in this. The story involves these two prison guards, corrections officers. These two prison guards, Todd Van Dorn and Mike Frederick. This is in Kent County, Michigan. They were jail officers, and they were on unpaid leave from their jobs after being charged with marijuana-related crimes. And I believe this all has to do with a bunch of jail officers who were getting marijuana butter or something like this. Anyway, not sure of all the details yet. But these two jail officers were on unpaid leave from their marijuana-related crimes. So cops with the Kent Area Narcotics Enforcement Team, or KNET, came by their place to do a knock and talk. Now, a knock and talk, for those of you that may not know cop lingo, is when cops come to your house, knock on the door to talk to you without a warrant. Now, seeing as they lack a warrant, it's supposed to be like a public encounter, right? Like, a vacuum cleaner salesman could come to your door, a Seventh-day Adventist, a Mormon, a Girl Scout. Somebody might come to your door, knock on it. You don't have to answer your door. You don't have to talk to them. You might open the door, you might say hi, you might even invite them in and start talking. But it's just a public encounter that anyone can have with anybody, and the people who are knocking and talking just happen to be cops who just want to talk, and you're under no requirement to open the door for them, even acknowledge their presence. But you might open the door, you might talk to them, right? So that was the legal theory they're operating under, these cops were, when they came by to talk to these two jail workers who were, dismissed or unpaid leave for the marijuana charges they were under. Oh, sorry, forgot to mention one important detail. This knock and talk took place at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. Like everybody expects somebody to come knocking on their door at 4 a.m. to just chat. Okay. Now, this original doctrine of the knock and talk, like I had kind of described, was the idea that, it's a public encounter. And, like you'd have with the Girl Scouts or the Seventh-day Adventist or whatever. But nobody's selling Girl Scout cookies at 4 a.m. And any religious proselytizer that came by my house at 4 a.m. knocking on the door wanting to introduce me to the good word of Jesus would have a very quick opportunity to meet him in person. So this is not like what the doctrine was kind of meant to cover, right? The spirit of this thing, knock and talk, was officers or just other people in the community that could knock and talk to people, right? In the course of an investigation. Oh, but no. We're going to go by the letter of the law with this judge. This judge came to a decision. Kent County Circuit Court Judge Dennis Lieber said that the officers acted properly in conducting their knock and talk. They didn't violate the law. They were doing everything just fine. Now, the cops themselves, I should say the jail guards themselves, were kind of dumbasses. When the cops showed up at 4 a.m, the KNET officers showed up at 4 a.m, the KNET officers decided against getting warrants in order to protect the corrections officers from the publicity that would result in the public swearing out of warrants. Aww. They were just protecting their own. We didn't want to get a warrant because then that'd have been a public record, and gosh, the press might have said something bad about these jail officers who were laid off for a marijuana crime. All right, so they come by for their knock and talk. The corrections officers, on the other hand, the corrections officers are like, they think they have to let these guys in, and they waived their constitutional rights to remain silent because they thought their jobs were at stake. So I'm conflicted on this one. On the one hand, I despise this judge's ruling that a 4 a.m. knock and talk is perfectly reasonable. But there is no clear law that says that a knock and talk at 4 a.m. is illegal. But there's a whole bunch of other cases where similar late night knock and talks were invalidated by other courts. And there is the point that, you couldn't have waited till 8 a.m? Come on, you had to go at 4 a.m.? Well, yeah, cops do that on purpose. They like to do these raids in dead of the middle of the morning. They like to do these things in the middle of the morning when you're tired, when you're disoriented, and when no one else is awake for you to call. Anyway, so you got that on the one hand. How do I feel about that? Then on the other hand, I got jail guards who are probably guarding people for marijuana crimes, who they themselves got charged with a marijuana crime and were dumbasses enough to give up their Fifth Amendment and Fourth Amendment rights when the cops show up to talk to them. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know where to point my sarcasm. I don't know what to rant about on this one. I'm against 4 a.m. knock and talks, but I'm all for dumbass prison guards getting put in jail. I don't know where to go. I'm going to go with the principal. I got to go with the principal on this one. Despite the dumbassery of these cops, despite the fact that they're prison guards themselves getting busted for marijuana, I got to go back to the principle of the thing. That this was an abuse of knock and talk. This is definitely an abuse of knock and talk, regardless of how dumbass the people involved were with it. So, just interesting thing came across my Twitter feed, and I thought we'll have to follow up on this and see how this went down. Because, like I said, this was a story from the end of August, so we're just about 2 months old on this story. But it came across Twitter, and it just made me think a little bit. Wanted to have some idea of what that was. Hey, to close out too, the great Oregon pot debate. If you want to see it, K2 News has now posted it. Not exactly sure where to get it on their website, but if you go to katu.com, you can see the Great Oregon Pot Debate. It also includes another 30 minutes, the after show, overtime, that they didn't broadcast on TV, but another half hour that was streamed live that you can now get. And I'm going to go get that and mine it for some more commercials. But I got to say, it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun, first of all, when the closing remarks for the side trying to maintain marijuana prohibition is an anecdote from the 1980s about a pot smoker being told by cops to call his grandma that gets laughed out of the room. Your clothes. I mean, this guy's a district attorney, right? I watch the Law and Order TV shows. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but I have a few as friends. Isn't the clothes part supposed to be the strongest part of the argument? Isn't that where you sum up your position? And he blew that whole minute to tell an anecdote from 1980 about a pot smoker being told to call his grandma. So that was joy for me. To hear the audience laughing, to imagine all the people who had gotten up, who are still undecided on Measure 91, who got their ballots, they've arrived in the mail already, it's been sitting on the mantle. They thought, well, this week maybe me and Mildred ought to fill out the ballot. Haven't thought about the marijuana thing whatsoever. Have a general feeling in their gut that it's probably going to be legal eventually. Don't like potheads, don't like pot. But maybe this isn't like that last one they tried to pull over. Maybe this is the right one. A little unsure. If they tuned on Sunday to watch that debate and heard the audience openly debunking the scientific expert, which was confirmed by the chyrons on the screen explaining how he retracted his statement about 5 dead infant children being killed by marijuana edibles, and to have the clothes be laughed off the stage when the district attorney tells an anecdote from the 1980s after disparaging his opponent for having had experience in the 1980s, mind you. And I hope, I toot my own horn time here, I hope my appearance there as a guy in a suit, as the boogeyman. I'm actually the boogeyman. I'm the guy they're scaring you about marijuana. I'm the guy who smokes every day. I smoke hourly. I'm that guy. I'm the marijuana addict. I don't think I'm an addict, but if what they think is an addict is someone who uses marijuana all the time, I'm the guy. I'm the one you're terrifying everyone about. And yet, you can't show me how my marijuana use is harming anyone. Even myself, for that matter. But anyone else. I don't drive. I don't have kids. I don't work out in the public. Take public transportation everywhere I go. I hope that question, and just by the reaction of the audience, I hope that also amplified it. I hope that question burrowed itself into those people's brains, to Edgar and Mildred, waiting to fill out their Measure 91 ballot in Clackamas County. I hope that filtered down to their brains of, what? It's never going away. It's never going to go away. Washington already legalized it. California will probably legalize it. All our money's just going to go to Washington. All the pothead money's just going to go to Washington and California. Why shouldn't we get some of that money? God, I hope that sunk into them. And if it didn't, then I hope they just listened to Inga Frickland, who totally knocked it out of the park. Richard Harris was good too. Nothing wrong with his appearance, but my God, Inga's a rock star. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed,